Today I have a really interesting project for you that I was thinking of in my head and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and I just decided to go for it. The inspiration for this project came from having so many college t-shirts and wanting to do something with them. I didn't want to keep them all because it was like a couple big stacks and there was no reason, like I wasn't going to be able to wear all of those for the rest of my life. I had heard about the t-shirt blanket idea and I really loved that, but I do have a lot of blankets too. So I was trying to think of a different way that I could just take little snippets of the t-shirts, put them all together in some sort of like wearable item. I wanted to show you what it ended up looking like. I did some searching on Pinterest and I couldn't really find that much, so I really just had to make it up on the fly. So follow along on my journey to figure out how I ended up with a really fun jacket. Anyone that has like a lot of t-shirts from something, so it could be high school, it could be club volleyball, that was another thing that I had a lot of, and I would love to see it if you did this, so make sure to tag me. Now let's get into the supplies and everything you're gonna need.
Grab your stack of t-shirts, jacket, fabric scissors, iron, needle and thread, and your sewing machine.
I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it. Throughout this process, I really wanted to be perfect, but that's the thing that I needed to let go of. I found that the more go with the flow I was with this project, the better it went. So that's another tip I have for just making sure that you approach this project in a way that you're willing to let it evolve as it goes. Because I imagined perfect grid on the back of this jacket, and that is not at all how it ended up, and I like it better that way. Just be open to using a different t-shirt or not using a piece that you thought you really were going to want to use on the project, you know, using a different color thread. Just be open and be willing to take it from one thing to the next and see how it turns out. Like, it's supposed to be fun. Like, that's what I always remind myself with these projects when I get stressed or, you know, start to worry about like, well, what is it going to end up looking like? Don't put too much pressure on it, even though it does feel really hard to cut up your t-shirts. That was a very hard thing for me. Oh, I love this t-shirt. I'm never ever going to wear it. I'll maybe wear it once. What's the point of that? Cutting it and using the little snippet from it and putting it on a jean jacket is actually doing it more of a favor than if I were to just keep it as a whole t-shirt, taking up space in my closet and wearing it once a year.
First, gather your t-shirts and jacket. I recommend cotton t-shirts and try to get a variety of colors. Next, you'll actually cut the t-shirts. They're easier to work with if you cut the main design out first, and then you can start cutting into smaller pieces. Try to leave a border around the pieces that you like, because you can always cut more off. But honestly, don't overthink this part. Random snippets look really good. And next, you'll want to choose the layout. It's nice to have a general idea of where things will go, but be open and ready to change it on the fly. It can be helpful to sort the pieces by color. Like for me, I made sure the white pieces were spread out evenly, as well as maroon, gold, and black. You can do the same with any repeat designs such as the eagle, the M, a volleyball, as well as words. And then at least you have a general idea. Next, you'll want to take the first piece of fabric and pin it onto the jacket. Make sure to fold all of the edges under by at least 1/8 of an inch. My initial plan was to pin all of the pieces down, but I found it easier to do it one by one. Next, you'll sew the pieces on by hand, and I used light blue thread to match the jacket. Now, you want to sew this on using a blind stitch. Start off by running the needle through the edge of the fabric strip. Pull the thread all the way through, and then you'll want to run the needle through the jacket, not all the way through, just kind of pierce the top of that surface. And now you'll go through the fabric strip again, but about 1/2 inch ahead. Bring that thread all the way through the fabric piece, and then you'll go back onto the jacket again. Keep doing this all the way around that fabric strip. Then you'll want to repeat steps 4 and 5 for all of the pieces of fabric. So keep folding those edges under, pinning it onto the jacket, and ultimately sewing it on by hand. As you go, it will probably look imperfect, but the fabric has a lot of give, so later when we use the sewing machine, we can actually cover those gaps between the fabric. So don't worry too much about that. And I wanted to give you another look at the blind stitch. My mom was there in person to help me learn this, so if you know someone that knows this, just ask them. So at this point it may look a little lumpy, but that's okay, because now we're going to iron it. This will allow it to be a lot flatter and bring the pieces together a little bit. I used a towel just to make sure that I didn't melt any of the decals or mess with anything like that. And after this, everything did start to look more uniform, but I really wanted to reinforce that with a sewing machine. So that's why you want to set it up, get the bobbin going. I chose a zigzag pattern and got to sewing. So I started with the border in one corner and then I just went around the whole thing. And this is where you can really make sure that the pieces are lining up properly. So definitely take your time and just make sure that everything looks right. You can even pause for a moment and just play with the material a little bit to get it in place. You can feel free to speed up when you're feeling pretty confident, but still just nice and steady, keep it going. And once you get to a corner, you can put the needle down and lift up the jacket and turn everything. Just make sure everything is clear and out of the way so you're not like sewing the arm sleeve onto the back of the jacket. And after the border is complete, you get to sew all of the pieces together. This is the last bit of sewing that you'll do, and this is really where the zigzag pattern comes into play because it connects the pieces that are next to each other. And this is another time where you're probably going to end up playing with the fabric, filling those gaps, and making sure that everything looks nice and cohesive. This part does involve a lot of like snipping and restarting and everything, but that's necessary for clean looking stitch lines and making sure you're not going over that same piece again and again. Even still, try to find those paths that allow you to just rotate and keep going on that path because then you won't have to keep starting and restarting as much. This is when I was getting the most excited about the jacket because everything just comes together at this point. And then eventually you're done. The last part is snipping all of the threads, both on the outside of the jacket and on the inside. So make sure you get all of those. And then you should be good to go. The final step, of course, is to wear the jacket. It's so cool to think about how this really is such a unique and personal project. I mean, these are all t-shirts that I've worn and they highlight different elements of my college experience. And my sweet friend Natalie knew that I was doing this project and she got me this awesome alumni pin, so I made sure to put that on there as well just as soon as I was done with it. Now, if you enjoyed this project, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more projects like this. I'm really excited to keep trying new, different projects that, push my creative limits and can be an inspiration to anyone else that is looking for something similar. Thanks for watching.